Welcome to iPen Podcast, Interviews and Conversations. Here we bring entrepreneurs and their business to their audience and communities as well as ours. We welcome and connect with them to share who they are and what they do. Authors, entrepreneurs, we extend the invitation to promote your business here on our podcast and in iPen Magazine. Your article, your story, your promotions, how you can connect with others, a new audience, a quarterly magazine presented online for all to view and subscribe to. For articles, ads, and subscriptions, please contact ipendesigns@gmail.com. For your viewing, you can see past articles, past interviews on www.nanettembuchanan.com. Welcome to the show. Good evening, good evening, good evening. How are you? I hope the audience is well. I hope everybody's doing good. Because, of course, we're in the second week of the new year. So, we got to be on the right track now. We got to be pushing forward into the things that we need to do. We need to be a little different than we were last year. So in talking about a little different than we were last year, before I bring Felice on, because we're not different, we're just better than we were. We're better every day. That's what we do. But I want to talk about a few things that we have changed before we bring our guests on, and we're waiting for her to arrive. So we do have a few minutes to talk about some new ideas and some new things that are going on with us. So Felice, come join me while I welcome everybody in, and we talk about the new stuff, and we talk about, what's going on and how we're doing and all of that good stuff. So how are you, my dear?
I don't have words to describe how I am.
Oh, okay. And you know what? Sometimes that's a blessing. So I think that's what it is. It's a blessing when you can say that, everything is positive, and with 14 days in, according to 12 days in. I'm sorry.
We are 12 days in.
With 12 days in, if you are still smiling and you're still happy, that means the new year has kicked in for you and it's doing you a bit of honor. Okay. Yeah. So hey, that might be the year. That might be the year. We have to check that out. But what I want to remind our audience is everything changes. Everything evolves. Everything becomes new. Everything becomes a different thing. So if you notice behind us, we have a new setup. We got a new head setup from last year. We changed it over. I try to keep things, in line. So look out. The commercial will be changed over as well. Our intro will be changed as well, because we want to keep up with the newer things that are going on. So some of the things that are changing is that our podcast format will be a better format. I would say it would be better. It's a better format because it's opening avenues for other people. We're opening a way for other people to be able to assess more. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to leave it for the new intro and the new commercial and everything else that'll be coming on next week. But I just want you guys, if you are following me and you're following Felice, you have seen some of the stuff that we're looking at doing and how we're going to open up things for our people and open things for just opportunities, networking opportunities, new author opportunities, new business opportunities, new platforms for people to share their information. And I don't know, I know you and I always do this, but I want to make sure that people understand that to inspire others, you must be inspired.
Yes.
you can't inspire a soul if you sitting back moping yourself. So I want
Yeah.
everybody. It's only 12 days in, people. We can't be moping already. We can't
Well,
be
you can
upset.
be, and you can inspire people to the negative, to the dark side, I should say. But
Yeah,
I
yeah, and you
agree.
can't,
That's
yeah,
not
we can't do that stuff. So
good.
one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to bring in our second person of the year. We're going to bring her in, and we're going to let her, begin to light up, just light up what's going on in the world and giving people inspiration and all of the motivation and everything. I know myself, I try to inspire myself every day. That's first and foremost, because if I can't inspire myself, I'm dragging, my face
Mhm.
dragging, my attitude dragging, my body dragging. Everything that I bump into is going to be a dragging day. It's almost like when you see the rain coming down and it's pouring, and you're like, how am I going to get through these raindrops? If you're not that type of person to be uplifting, please
Mhm.
go take a walk. Please, please
Well,
go.
there you go. And you can't require other people to do something you're not willing to do for
You're
yourself.
not willing to do for yourself, and
Yeah.
that's the main thing that we have to understand as people. Why 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 would we not be concerned with making sure that all that we do and all that we want to do is to inspire
Mhm.
others? And with that being said, that's what our guest is about, trying to uplift people and make sure. And again, she's in one of my favorite fields, and that's that teaching the young.
Mhm.
I always say that you got to have more patience than a little. I had the grand woman again this weekend, so
Oh.
and the grand woman was with me again this weekend, and she told me that
Mhm.
she knew that she was getting on her grandfather's nerves.
She
She
knew
she
it.
she said,
Now,
I
was
know.
it a mission of hers to do
She said,
that?
I know I'm getting on his nerves. But the thing about it is she was so excited about the fact that her birthday is coming up next week.
Ah,
So she
good.
was a bundle of, all kind of, hey, let's do this and hey, let's do that. And,
Mhm. Yeah.
so I like the idea that our guests,
Mhm.
works with the children and works
Mhm.
with teaching and mentoring, and you're never too old to learn.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that she's that type of person. So we're going to bring
Mhm.
her to the stage. Tonight's guest is Dr. Terri Lane Hunt, and we want to make sure. Where did that last Jack?
Yeah.
I put in the wrong name at the
Yeah, I
end.
believe.
Yeah, that was
I
her name on the
believe.
bio. So we're gonna fix that. We're
Yeah,
gonna
let's get the shovel out. We get that out.
get
The
the shovel
shovel
out.
out.
Listen, when you're too good to have the shovel,
Mhm.
that's when you know you got problems.
Yeah.
When you're
There
too
you
good
go.
to hide the stuff that you wasn't supposed to do, bury it and hide it. So we're gonna do that again. We're gonna introduce our guest tonight is
Yeah.
Dr. Terri Lane Hunt. And Jackson is her maiden name. So I did not make a big mistake because it
Yeah.
is the same woman. So, but we're going to bring her to the stage and add her on. Good evening, good evening, good evening.
Hello, everybody.
How are you?
Hello.
How
I'm
are you?
wonderful. I'm wonderful.
Good,
Good.
good, good. It's good to see you. Good to be in the arena. It's
Yeah.
good. It's good to be here. Good to be
Honey,
here.
it's good to be seen.
There
Yes,
you go.
yes, yes, yes. So what we usually do, and we're not changing our format for those that are used to our format, we're just changing our background and our ambiance and bringing things on and doing different things in the background, but we're not changing what we normally do. So, Dr. Hunt, if you would, please tell us who you are because we don't know you. We introduce people for the fact that we're not so much interested in you on the surface. We want to know a little bit about you that we don't know. If we read your bio, we already know all of that other stuff. We want to know who you are. Who are you?
You are so right. I am Terry Lane Jackson Hunt.
Yay.
I am a native of Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Yay, Louisiana.
All right.
Uh, I am one of five girls. My mother had five girls. I am the oldest. My mother is 85 and she's still with me. I am so grateful and so honored that my mother is still alive. Um, I am a minister over the seniors at my church. I am a two-time retired teacher from the school system. I am a teacher of seniors and high schoolers now because I teach at different universities.
Okay.
So teaching is my passion. Loving on people is my passion. Encouraging people is my passion because I don't want anybody to go through some of the stuff I have gone through and not have somebody there to love on them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that makes sense.
Very,
That makes
very,
sense.
very, very,
And the
very
thing about it is that we have to understand that in all of what you have described as being a part of what you do and who you are, there takes a special person to be all of those things.
Mhm.
Thank you.
There has to be a connector in those things because you can't. It's different when you say I'm a truck driver and you go about driving your truck and then you come home and be someone different. It's different when you say you're doing manual labor or any other type of labor and you go to your job and you come home and you do something different. But the teacher, the tutor, the minister, the mentor, and the author has to
Yes.
have some form of compassion
Yeah.
in order to complete those assignments. And a lot of
Yes.
times those assignments are gifts. They're not so much something that somebody else can train you to do. It's something that you have to have within you to get started. So I want to thank you for the work that you do because I understand that wholeheartedly, that takes a little bit more than just the going to school and getting the education and everything else. You have to have a little bit more in you in order to be able to express it to others and give that gift to others and pass it on. So I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. They always say some was chosen and some weren't. I truly believe I was chosen
Amen.
because I have 47 years of teaching. So I truly believe I was chosen.
Ooh,
Yes.
that's a lifetime of teaching.
Yeah.
Lifetime.
Well,
So did you,
yeah.
yeah.
And my hat's off to you. Every teacher that I meet, I want to just come and hug them and thank them from the bottom of my heart.
Well, thank you.
I could not.
That's patience overload. It's got to be
Yeah.
patience overload because the thing about and I say it in humor, but I dealt with children. I'm a children advocate. I dealt with children all of my life too. I started out working with children, and I went into volunteering working with children, and then I went, So I joke about my grandwoman. And I joke about my other grands, but the thing about it is I watch them grow and I want them to grow in knowledge. And I want
Yeah.
them to grow in knowledge beyond the books, beyond the schoolroom. So I understand totally if you're ministering and you're mentoring and you're tutoring, that's well beyond the classroom. That's
Yes.
well beyond the classroom. So
Absolutely.
again, I want to make sure that you get you get your flowers and your kudos while you're with us tonight.
Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you.
So what age did you start with as far as teaching and your ministry and everything else? I know you said you minister to seniors now, but when you started, what age did you start teaching and everything?
I truly started at 17 right out of high school. Remember back in the day they let you come and sub? Well, I started
Mm.
as a sub to put myself through college.
And okay, and what age were you teaching? Who the
I
students?
started with pre-K. I started with pre-K.
Ooh,
And at this point in my life, I've taught them all.
ooh, ooh.
Yeah, very good. I had the baby, so.
Ooh. I don't know. I don't know if I want them crawling toddlers all over everywhere.
Well, my pre-K were like 3 and 4. 3 and
Right,
4.
right,
Yes.
right.
Head Start.
I that takes a whole lot of energy.
But
That
you know,
takes
the interesting thing about me is I've always preferred children and elders. Those
Yeah.
were always my
yes.
favorite.
Yeah,
And
you
not
know
me.
what? I believe that. I
And the
believe that.
elders.
Not
Yes.
only that, the thing about it is you learn. I just believe that saying out of the mouth of babes,
Mm-hmm.
and then the wisdom of the elder.
Yeah.
There you go. That's
You know
right.
what I mean? So
Yeah.
you get the babes that are just learning and they have no concept
Right.
of what's going on. So they do things their way. And
That's right.
sometimes their way is the easier way. You know,
Yeah.
we
Oh,
trying to
yeah.
do it the you know proper way. But
Mhm.
you know, when you see them doing things, you be like, well, why didn't I try that way? That just made more sense to
Yeah.
just do it the way that they were
But
doing it.
but you know what? The best love of all is the love from a child because it's
Yes,
innocent and it's real.
yes,
Yeah.
And if
yes.
you start with children loving you and you loving them back, that's your
Mhm.
foundation of learning what love is really all about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
I love
true.
that. Never thought
That's
of
Yeah.
it.
true. That's true. And then not only that, the lessons that we learn, I
Yeah.
think the life lessons that we learn by the time we get to be the age where we kind of know what our
Hmm.
job is going to be, or we kind of know what path we're going to take or whatever, we have to continue to hold on to that child light, that yearning to learn, the yearning to
Right.
be loved, the yearning to be, you know, more than the adult that we figure we got to be, you know, we got to be grown, we got to be firm in what we're doing, we got to be, we lose a bit of that vulnerability. And I don't mean it in a negative way, but I mean it in a learning. We're willing to learn, we're willing
Yeah.
to do certain things. We get hardened as we become adults. We get
Yes, we do.
hardened to our surroundings, we get hardened to certain things. So, how did you avoid using, and I know your life experiences and in the writings that you do, that how did you avoid not passing on some of those circumstances that you went through and the different, and we're going to get to some of those things, the hurting and loss and everything, but how did you not tap into the negative and remain positive for your teaching and your learning?
Mm.
But first of all, Jesus, that's the center of my universe.
Okay.
And second, you have two choices. You can wallow in it or you can use it to help somebody else. And I
Yeah.
chose to protect children. And I think that's why I went that way because I didn't want them to go through some of the things I went through. And then
Mhm.
you also have the choice. You can hold on to that and let it cripple you, or you can use it to make you better and stronger
Right.
and wiser.
Right.
And I chose to allow it to make me love harder, to be better, and to do better, and to be the very best person that I can be.
Mm. Well, I
Now,
like that.
do you believe that there's a hurt or a loss that you can't surpass, or do you believe that, like you said, if you believe strong enough, you can get beyond that hurt and that loss?
Baby, it took me 68 years to get past one of them.
Wow.
It wasn't until I wrote the book that I really healed from it. And I had been in the psychiatrist's office all my life. So
Mm.
it
Hmm.
took me 68 years. And I can
Wow.
truly talk about it. It was times I wouldn't even let it come out of my mouth
And
because
you know what?
we were
I can believe that. I can believe that. I've had a couple of people, and I've said it before, but I've had a couple of people that came to me to write their books and to help them write their books. One said, "Okay, you can ghostwrite it if you want to, but I need the story to be told." But even
mhm.
in the ghostwriting and even in the talking, they couldn't get the story out.
Mm.
I cried
The other,
I
yeah.
cried 6 months. I cried 6 months writing my first book.
Oh.
Mm,
But I was
mm,
determined I was going to put it out there because I just got over breast cancer. And during the time of me having breast cancer, you know what they say, sometimes God got to knock you down to get you to hear what he's saying. Well,
yes.
he had already told me that breast cancer was going to be my breakthrough. And I'm going, how in the world?
It-
But because
I
of who
understand.
he is, yeah,
Yeah.
because of who he is and the faith and the trust that I
Mhm,
had in him, I went
mhm,
with it. He said,
mhm,
cancer is going to be your breakthrough. And y'all, I'm
mhm.
living the best life I ever lived in my life.
Wow.
Just
Well,
for having a double mastectomy and breast cancer.
I could throw my hand up to that because
Yes,
I'm on the same journey. I'm on the same
yes,
journey. I'm on a cancer journey, and
Mm.
I
yes.
had to, just face it and say, well, what do you want me to do with this? You
Yes.
That's right.
know, I don't know what to do with this. So I had to surrender and
Yes,
just sit down and
yes.
be calm and listen. And he just said, write it. He said, write it.
Right.
There are people that are
That was
going
the best.
crazy for less.
That was
There
the
are
best
people,
feeling you ever had, wasn't
yeah,
it?
people that are
Yes,
going for, going crazy about less. They're going
yes,
crazy about not having money. They're going crazy
yes,
about not having a husband, not having a wife, not having the job they wanted. And they're
yes,
not realizing what it is to have to really fear that you're no longer going to have life. They
Yeah.
don't
right,
they don't know what that is. So
right.
hurting and losing becomes a major factor
Mm-hmm.
for
Yes,
you to release it. Like you said, you
Mm-hmm.
got to release it. You got to release it and
yes.
let it go.
In
So
God's time.
yeah, in God's time,
All in
in
God's
God's
time.
time. That's right,
It's
in God's
like,
You
time.
know, we grew up in an era where you didn't air your dirty laundry.
Right.
Children were seen and not heard. You didn't
right.
talk about Mr. So and so and Miss So and so. So
Mm-hmm.
who do you have to tell?
Yeah.
Who do you tell? So
And
you
not only that, those close to you sometimes would tell you, go on.
Yeah.
They don't want to
Yeah.
hear it. Go on away.
well, that's
And
because they don't know how to deal with it.
That's right.
exactly.
And
Or
then you
Exactly.
got to remember, it may have happened to them because back then, no, they don't. Some people took secrets to their grave, so it could have
Exactly.
happened to them as well.
Exactly.
Mhm.
You are
Yeah.
So
so
I try
right.
to give everybody grace now. I try to give people grace because we
Mhm.
don't know their story,
That's right.
and
Right.
our story is
Right.
enough to just to give everybody grace. If you got a story like mine,
Yes.
Well,
so
Mm-hmm.
now
I am learning.
how do you tie the past, the present, and the future together to try to go through the 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 the, the things you have to go through? Because in writing a story, and I know you will attest to it, in writing a story, there's a way to tell the story, and then there's
Mhm,
a way to get the point across. But you got to
mhm,
mix those two and mesh them together. You got to get the point across and tell the story.
mhm.
So how did you get from your past to the present and then be able to tell someone there is a future?
Well, first of all, I use my past to give me strength.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then I also use my past to teach me compassion because I don't want anybody to feel the things that I felt. Then I
Mhm.
also use my past to make me wise. What is the lesson you wanted me to learn in this, Father? God, what is
Mm-hmm.
the lesson that you want me to learn? How you want me to tell this story so that it'll be feasible for everybody? Because everybody can't stand to hear this. So if you give
Mm.
me the words and the knowledge, then I can put it down where people will want to hear it and people will want to know it's okay and people will want to know I'm not the only one. And
Mhm.
it happened to me. When I wrote
Mhm.
that book, I had as many men calling me as I had women saying, the men never would say what happened, but they'll say, oh, it happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
It
right, right.
happened to me. And the
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
first thing God tells me to say is, it wasn't your fault.
Right,
Everybody
right,
needs to know it wasn't your fault.
Yeah.
right,
The
right.
things that happened to you wasn't your fault.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
now, as a believer, and as old as I am, and as wise I am now, I realize all those things had to happen for me to get to where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
Right, right.
And because of those things, to me, I'm a better person. I'm a more
Right.
loving person. I'm a kinder person because now I take other people's feeling into consideration above my own.
Right,
Yeah.
Because
right.
now I realize we all got a story to tell. Some people just not strong enough to tell it yet.
Yeah.
Right,
Ooh,
right.
that's hard.
Right,
Yes.
right, right, right.
Yeah.
That's deep. That's deep because of
Mm-hmm.
and like you said, like I said, I had the first one said no, don't write it, don't write it. But the second one, she was told by her therapist or whatever to journal, and I kept
Mhm.
saying to her, journaling is not the same as writing a book.
Mhm.
It's not the same, and you're not going to get the same response. You're not Journaling is for you. You know,
Mhm.
you're the one reading that. But when you write a book or you write a story, everybody is privy to that story. Everybody is privy, and it may sound like to you, you just want to yell it off a mountaintop and tell it.
Mhm.
But if you're still in that era of your healing, where you're not able to open and you're not able to say it, it's
Mhm.
not really time to write the story. It's not time yet. So how did you know, other than you being, faithful and
Mhm.
everything else, how did you know it was time?
It's good that you asked me that question. I'm sitting here about to burst. When God first told me to write this story, my concern was my mother. I always said that the day
Mhm.
my mother closed her eye, I was going to write a book.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then it came a time when God said, "No, I need you to write it now."
Oh.
So when
Mhm.
I went to my publisher, I explained to her, this is not a book of revenge. This is
Mhm.
not a book of pitchback. This
Yeah.
is a book of release and a book to
Mhm.
help somebody else in
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
midst of me telling my story. And then once
Mhm.
I wrote the story, I had family members that came up to me and said, "How can you be so sweet and kind and loving to them and they did you like that?"
Yeah.
Mhm.
I said, because
Mhm.
that's between them and God. That has nothing to do with me.
Sure.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
between them and God. Because I'm
Mhm.
not going to stay back there. I've already moved on.
Mhm.
Right.
But the
Right.
time when it was time to write it, I had got to the point I didn't care if I didn't have another family member speaking to me. I had to live. I had to survive.
Right.
And it
Right.
became about me, not about what they said, what they thought. That's when I knew it was time because I
Right.
didn't care anymore.
And
I
and
didn't
and
care.
you know what I find in a lot of families, a lot of people that I talk to, and a lot of people that I've walked away from, they care to repeat bits and pieces of the
Mhm,
stories. They'll repeat bits and pieces of what went on. They'll
mhm,
they'll repeat bits and pieces of what it is. But if you went to them directly at that time and said to
mhm,
them, "Well, what about da 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 da?" Oh, I
mhm,
don't know nothing about that. I don't know what you're talking about. You
to
Mhm.
better
block
go
that.
ask somebody else that question because I don't know nothing about that. They don't really want to be confronted with the
Mhm,
questions that
Yeah.
would settle you, that would
Mhm.
mhm,
give you that ease of mind, that would give you that
Mhm.
inner peace. They don't want to do that. But they
Mhm.
watch you as they do the whispering and the, well,
mhm.
where's so and so? Well, they ain't never had that, and
There
they
you
go
go.
on and on and on and on. Well, what
Yeah.
about when such and such was there? And they go on and on and on and on and on with the poker. They
Mhm,
poke at
Yeah.
at at the story. They poke at the
Mhm.
guilt. They poke at the person that's in pain. They,
Mhm.
they would never walk up to the person that was the subject, that the instigator, the one
Mhm.
that led all of the misgivings and everything else. They ain't gonna poke them,
Yeah.
but they'll
no.
poke around the person that has already been victimized, or the person
Mhm.
that's already in a misunderstanding, or the person
Mhm.
that has something that on their chest that they want to say. They'll, well, why would you want to open that door? Why would you
Mhm.
want to open that box? Why would you want to say that? So a lot of
Mhm,
times, that's the time when I need to sit down and get my thoughts together.
mhm,
Mhm.
Because a lot of times, the only way you're going to get it off your chest is to write it. And that's
mhm,
what the woman was, therapist was telling the young lady. If you're
Mhm.
mhm,
preparing to write this book, you need to first sit down and go through writing a journal for yourself, writing
mhm,
things to yourself. And like I told her, I don't need to know the depth of your psychiatry or your therapist or what you're going
mhm,
through. I need you to be able to put it together so that I
mhm,
can at least help you with putting it together. You can't put what happened last year in front of what happened 2 years ago because the reader is going to be asking, well, where did this
mhm,
come from? Who is this
Yeah.
person? And how did they get involved? So I'm helping you with that. I'm not trying to help you solve and heal. So when it's
mhm,
time to write that story, from what you're saying, the healing was in the writing.
mhm.
But
Yes.
how far did you have to get to that healing?
Mm,
Well, it took me, I was in my 60s when I wrote the book.
mm,
And I had gone through this since I was 9 years old. And I think I left home. My mother and father gave me a trip to Germany when I was 17. So that kind of got me away from that situation. But when
mm,
I decided to write the book, I was ready because I
mm.
got to the point it was survival for me. It was like I was fighting for my life. And
Yeah.
so it didn't matter what nobody else thought. Nobody picked at me because I wouldn't allow it. Nobody poked at me because I didn't allow it. When I wrote that book, honey, I was steadfast and unmovable like a tree planted by rivers of water. I
Amen.
meant
Amen.
business. I wasn't
Mhm.
going to let anybody get in the way of my healing. I had carried that too long. And
Right,
I meant,
right.
I told my mom when I got ready to write, I said, I'm going to slay every demon I got one at a time. Because
Yeah.
when I go to rest, I want to rest and I'm not bringing none of those demons with me. So I'm
Yeah.
going
Exactly.
to slay them one demon at a time. Either
Exactly.
Mm.
you're with me or you're not, but I got to do what I got to do to save my life.
Yeah.
Right,
My
right.
mother has never changed with me and she wrote the book. My sister said she cried, but she never condemned me. She never discussed it. And that was okay. Because that was for me that time.
Mhm.
Right, right, right,
And I
right.
sold 762 books and I had one criticized. One person criticized it, and it don't even matter.
Yeah.
Right, right. I remember
I knew it was God.
it's
I knew it
funny.
was God.
Yeah.
I tell a lot of people
Mm.
that, your first audience is going to be those that are being nosy about what you're writing.
Yeah.
Your
Hmm.
first audience is going to be those that did do something to you.
Mm.
Your first
Hmm.
audience is going to be those to see if you told it the way that they thought you was going to tell it. Did you
Mm.
cover it? Did you change the names to protect the innocent?
Mm.
What did you do to get that off your chest? Did you have to disguise something? Did you disguise me? Because they know who they are.
That's right.
They know who they, you can name them anything you want, but they know who they are. They
Mhm.
know how they fit,
Hmm.
So
Mhm.
I understand totally because a lot of times, again, I've been around a lot of authors that have said that,
Mhm.
they've had to shut it down because they could not get past
Yeah.
people reading what
Mhm.
they wrote.
Hmm.
Mm.
So for you to say that it was healing for you is
Mhm.
definitely a help for others to know that you
That's
got to
right.
go beyond it in order to
Hmm.
heal. You can't go
Yeah.
all the way up to it and then can't get it
Come
done.
back.
You
That's
got
right.
to go beyond it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And
That's
the best
understandable.
thing about it for me was I didn't tell anybody I was writing a book. So I didn't get that negative in my ear. I
Mm.
kept my book
Right.
private.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
because I even had friends that got angry with me and said, "We could have helped you. We self-published." No, you couldn't help me because when I start crying, you was gonna start crying, and nobody was gonna get nothing done. I went to
Right.
somebody that didn't know anything about me,
Right.
somebody that was about the business. I said, "Okay, you don't cry, now dry your eyes. Let's move on."
Uh-uh.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's
Right.
what I didn't tell nobody. God told me I did everything exactly. He told me it wasn't for nobody to talk about. It wasn't for me to tell nobody. Get
Yeah.
the book published, and He was gonna do the rest, and He did the rest. I've
Amen.
never
It's
felt more
beautiful.
stronger. I never felt more bolder because I was always a people pleaser. I wanted everybody to love me. I wanted to love everybody. I wanted
Yeah.
everybody to be happy. I want to make everybody proud. That don't work.
Yeah.
That's not being
Yeah.
realistic.
Yeah. You're right
Yeah.
about that.
That's right.
That's not
That's
realistic. No
wow.
matter what you do, somebody gonna find fault and find problems.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
you have to make as long as I'm in alignment with God's will for my life, that everything else gonna have to fall in where it get in.
All in place. That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's right.
Absolutely. Wow.
yeah.
Okay. So for those of as we kind of talked around how that you wrote the book, so we haven't talked about the name of the book or um, what has been the result for the world because of course you're cycle breaking right by you know putting it into things that happen. So what has been the result of that from your book?
Well, for one, I know between the three books, I have had the best time because now I know for a fact it really did help people. I know for a fact God did it because that was never my desire to write a book.
Mhm.
And it have helped so many people mentally, physically,
Mhm.
and I've even helped people financially because I did a anthology, so that allowed people to write that couldn't afford to pay for a real book or pay
Sure.
for a complete book. So I helped them mentally, physically, and financially.
Yeah.
So my book has been a great help to so many people in so many ways, and we get the best reviews. We get awesome reviews,
Mm.
and we are we are two-time bestsellers.
Oh, very good. Now, so people can also take inspiration about it not being too late, because I kind of chuckled when you said you did this in your 60s, and I'm like, baby,
Mhm.
It's never too late.
yeah, it's never too late. It just
It's never.
never.
Mm-mm.
Well,
Mm-mm.
let me explain something to you. Think about it like this. I was going through so much. What time did I have to even consider what was best for me? What time
Mhm.
did I have to go to school to get a doctorate degree? What time did I have being in a domestic abuse marriage? I had two
Mhm.
children. I had to work two and three jobs. And then from there,
Mhm.
I got cancer. So everything happened to me in my 60s.
Wow.
Mm. Mm.
But
Mhm.
it's
Wow.
never too late. It's never too late to start over,
Mhm.
and it's never too late to conquer your dreams.
Yes.
As
Mhm.
long as you got a soul, you got a chance.
Yes. Yes. Because like the world will tell us, no, you ain't got. Now that you're 60, you don't have enough time to get the dream to do that. And
Mhm.
God is time.
God said, what God
God
said,
is
yes,
time. That's
yes,
right.
yes.
And if God
I
tell you to do something, do it.
do it
Because
then.
Mhm.
when I got my doctorate degree, I've had people say, "Why you wait till you got so old? What you gonna do with it? You retired?" I say, "Wear it. It's mine.
That's right. That's
If I don't do anything
Mhm.
with it, it's okay. You That's one thing you can't take
yeah,
from me is my knowledge."
yes, that's right.
Mhm.
Right.
So.
So now you no longer work in like as a teacher role in the school system, and now you minister or to elderly or seniors, or so what is your gift there?
Okay, what I do now is I serve at universities. I serve at
Mhm.
different universities. I
Okay.
teach a class of I have 55 people on roll at New Direction Christian Church of
Mhm.
seniors 55 and older. And I do
Okay.
that every Sunday morning. I have been doing it for the last 11 years.
Well, praise the Lord.
I'm always busy. I'm always teaching, always tutoring, always doing something.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And not
Mhm.
only do I just teach them, I'm the type of person I make sure they have activities. I take them on trips. I give them
Mhm.
luncheon. I have a reason to dress up and look pretty. I do things with them. I give parties for them. I give recreation for them, and I take them traveling. I do whatever because a lot of them husbands are gone, children don't have time. So I try to give them a
Mhm.
reason to want to keep living.
Yes.
Mhm.
Amen.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Yeah.
your.
Because the thing about it is that it's a real thing, and it's not something that I didn't understand when I was younger, because there was always older people around me.
Mhm.
Always, if I go to the rec center, there was people there that were older. If you go to well, I worked at the Boys and Girls Club. My volunteers were older.
Mhm.
People that were dealing in the daycare centers, they were older. You always had someone that was older, or someone that was willing, that was older, to
Yeah.
help in the community. And I think that is somewhat of what our loss is in today's time, that we don't
Mhm.
Mhm.
have enough elders that feel valued enough to go
Mhm.
into the community. And of course, they don't feel safe enough in some
Okay.
communities to go
Yeah.
out and help, and to go out and lend a hand or do something. But the young folks need to understand that, just like you said, we all have, a past, and we all have, that hurt, and that trauma that goes through. And a lot of it is that generational trauma,
Mhm.
Yes.
and
Yes.
the life rules that we live by, where now you don't do certain things. I know a woman that said to me that, she takes a Uber everywhere she goes, but she's 70 something years old, you
Mhm.
know. So I'm thinking, well, wait a minute now, I'm 68. If something was to happen to my husband or my son was bit, would I be the one taking an Uber and taking the chance,
Mhm.
as opposed to being involved in a group where I could ride with Miss So and So, or Miss So
Yeah.
and So could ride with me, or where we're no longer keeping that cohesive village together, you
Mhm.
know, and a lot of it comes from the generational trauma.
Right.
A lot of it comes from those life rules, those life
Mhm.
stories, those things that we don't want to talk about, those things that we don't explain. You know, you can't explain away some of the damage that is done, but you can
Mhm.
explain the need for help.
And
The
to move
need.
forward.
Exactly. Exactly. You
Mhm.
can't explain the damage. There's no such thing as trying to explain why someone did that, because we don't know why. You
Yeah.
can't
That's
explain why. We don't want the confrontation of the two coming back together and talking to each other, because that
mhm.
doesn't work either. But we can explain that there's a little more to look for,
Mhm.
Mhm.
in what goes on. So with that, do you feel that the release of the book will help? I know you said that you sold so many copies and you did this. I'll tell you something funny. My very first book was Family Secrets, Lies, and Alibis. And
Mhm.
and I had over 150 people show up to my book signing.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I would say a good 75 to 80 of them were family members because they didn't know what the book was about.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So they automatically felt like the book was about them. It had to be. It said Family Secrets, Lies, and Alibis. It was
Mhm.
not about them. It was about my husband and him finding his sister later on in life. But
Mhm.
the thing about it was, I had changed the characters to show what they felt. And it wasn't
Mhm.
that they felt any anger or anything about, why they didn't know each other at an early age. What they
Mhm.
felt was, suppose we had met each other and didn't know we were brothers and sisters.
Yes.
Mhm.
So that
Mhm.
was the story that they wanted told. They didn't
Mhm.
want to know about why did dad do this and why didn't
Mhm.
mom say this. They had no questions about that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Their thing was that this could cause a problem.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Why weren't we told? And
Yeah.
that
Right.
was the story that I told. But 150 people showed up thinking
Mhm.
that it was going to say Uncle so and so didn't do this, or Dad did that, or Mama should have did this, and your mama and my mama was arguing at the time. It wasn't even about that.
Yeah.
It
Mhm.
wasn't about that. So
Mhm.
and then a lot of them, well, I ain't reading the book.
Mhm.
They were scared that their name was in the book. Well,
Yeah.
no, no,
Yeah.
because if we're trying to help people heal,
That's right.
it's not about trying to criticize, which the damage is already done.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You did what you did for whatever
Mhm.
reason you thought you did it. You did it.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
that's for you and God to decipher. That's a whole nother topic, a whole nother day. But
Mhm.
do you feel that the release of the book, and when I say will help, not only help the person that has gone through this, but help the person prevent it from happening to someone else?
Yes, I do. And even with the reviews, so many people have expressed how it happened to them, how they can talk about it now, and how there are people that come up to me and say, I've been watching you for a long time and I had no idea. And then they'll ask me something like, how do you keep going? I said, because
Mhm,
I believe in me, I love me, and I want to see
mhm,
that I have a nice life with what's left over.
Yeah.
Don't bring that
mhm.
residue in. Let the residue stay back there.
Yeah.
Right,
But you got
right,
to want to be helped to get help. You got to want to help, want to be helped.
Mhm.
And
yeah,
then you got to love yourself enough to accept the help.
Yes.
And
yes,
there are people that have been in this
Yeah.
so long that they don't want to be helped.
Yeah.
or they feel that they're not
Yeah.
worth being
Worth
helped.
it.
Mhm,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
mhm.
That's absolutely right.
Yes.
So, so what do you think? How would you advise someone or encourage someone if they did want to seek the help, right? What do you think would be, some best practices, if you will? I don't want to say first steps, but best practices for getting the courage to come out.
Well, I went to a psychiatrist. I didn't want no counselor. I wanted the real deal. I went to a psychiatrist, and I must admit, I went for many years because every
Uh-huh.
time I felt like I was okay and I was doing
Mhm.
well,
Right,
I would get
right.
caught up with
Slip back.
somebody, and yeah, I would
Slip.
start talking to
Mhm.
somebody who relied upon me and trusted me to tell me their story, and I would go all the way back to square one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that happened until I wrote the book. And when I wrote the book, and I talked to, it wasn't until I wrote the book that I could freely talk about it, that I
Right.
could call that
Mm.
thing a thing.
Right.
It was
Right.
always
Right.
a it. It was a it, but then it became a thing, and then from a thing, it had a name.
Yeah.
Right. 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 Right.
Yeah,
Right.
but I
So
went to a psychiatrist.
so I
Mm-hmm.
hear you saying everyone has a story
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
and they have to learn how to tell it.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
And they have to be careful who they tell it to first.
right, right.
And the
Mm-hmm.
first person they should tell it to is
God,
exactly.
Right.
I'm just leading
I
into
agree.
the steps. The first person you
Yeah.
need to tell it to is God.
Right.
right.
And then you have to listen to tell it to yourself.
That's right. And be
Yeah.
able to
Because
stand telling it to yourself.
because along the way you change the narrative so that you can get by day.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You
Yeah.
change it until you pray about it. You
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
change it until you share it with in your times where your tears are falling and nobody even knows you're crying.
Can
Mm-hmm.
I
You
add
change
something to that right quick?
Yeah,
Go back a
yeah,
little bit. You change it so that you can be able to stand it. Because
right.
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's so ugly you can't stand it.
Sure.
Exactly.
Sure.
And then it's
Exactly.
so ugly sometimes you can't stand yourself.
Right.
Right,
So
right.
you
Because
got to get through
because you
all of
didn't
that
fight.
first.
Because you
That's
Mm-hmm.
didn't
right.
fight. Because you didn't
Right.
fight. And you wonder
That's
to
right.
yourself, what could I have done? And
Oh,
in a lot of cases, especially with the young, you know, abuse or the young, it started out at home and this is
Mm-hmm.
daddy or this is mama. And
Mm-hmm.
it was brother, it was sister. And yes, it does hurt for a lifetime
right.
Mm-hmm.
until you release it. And everyone has a story. I don't care
That's
Yeah.
if it
right.
was your dog bit you and your mother told you that was okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You've been carrying that around for years. You hate dogs. You hate you hate that you got to go to the doctor. You hate all
Mm-hmm.
kind of things that's related to that dog bite. You
That's
Mm-hmm.
know,
right.
and you got to let go of some of the things that you're holding on to that you use that negative word hate or you use that
Mm-hmm.
negative word can't or
Mm-hmm.
won't or you use all of the negatives to surround that story, but it's
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
keeping that story within you,
Right.
you
And
That's
know.
right.
So,
a lot of times
You become that story, honestly. You become that person. You become that story.
yeah, you do
mhm,
because
mhm,
that's the thing. You speak life into that thing.
mhm,
This
mhm,
thing hurt me, and it did this to me, and you just speak life into it every single day. So that's why it
mhm,
stays there because you don't allow it to die or allow it to be contained into the
Hmm.
moment or the time that happened, right?
That's right.
So
mhm,
you become arrested at that point, and
Right.
mhm.
your
Yeah,
life
you stagnant. That's right. You're at a
arrested in
standstill,
that.
mentally, sometimes physically. You're at a
Mhm.
standstill. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
So
everyone has a story was one of the things that you said was one of your favorite quotes was
Hmm.
that everyone had a story, but the one that stood out for me, I think was like really, I kind of knew the other two and but this one, I don't know that everybody understands that.
Yeah,
Treat people the way you want to be treated.
Treat people the way you want to be treated. I mean, some people, now let's just be real.
Mhm.
Some people will treat you a certain way because of what they want to get from you.
Sure.
They're not treating you the way that they would want to be treated, but in a manipulative force, they will treat you with all kind of respect and high honor and glory and all love and everything else until they can't get what they want.
Amen.
And then what I call the ugly will show up.
That's right.
So when you say treat people the way you want to be treated, how do I treat this person that's right here in this home with me, treating me a certain way? They're not learning that lesson at all, but you're telling me to treat them the way that I want to be treated. It ain't working. How do I do that?
Stop telling my story. let me tell you something about me that I learned. I don't care what they do. When you stand before God, God don't want to know what they did to you. God want to know what you did to them.
Yeah.
So you treat people the way you know they supposed to be treated in spite of how they treat you.
That's right.
In
And
spite of.
my nugget is Jesus did everything for us, and look how they did him. So who am I? Why not me?
Ooh.
So I cannot let you stop me from doing what I know is right.
Yeah.
Because when I go before God, I'm going all by myself.
Yeah.
He don't want to know what you did to me. He want to know what I did to you.
Yeah.
So even though people don't treat you the way you treat them, you know what's right and wrong, so you do it anyway. Some people will learn and some people would never learn.
Exactly.
But you can't stop being who
You're
God
right.
created you to be. Be who God created you to be. You know how hard it is for me to love on people I know don't like me? Or to know they're jealous of this book, or they know but you know what? I can't let them break who I am. I worked too hard to get here.
That's right.
Well, not only that, the thing that I found, and I started writing years and years and years and years and years ago that I didn't even know I was writing prior to me publishing, and I'm a self-published author. What I found out was that people are jealous of you one way or the other.
That's right.
It wouldn't have made a difference if I wrote a book. There would have been another reason for them to be mad at me, because when I look back and I look over things, I'm looking at it going, you know what? That person was upset with me long before that happened.
Long time ago.
You know, that
And God
person was
just
upset
not,
with me. Yeah, that
and
person.
God just not taking the cover off.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with that right now.
No, a lot of times in my life, it was so much that I was tapped on the shoulder a few times and didn't pay attention. You know, it was shown to me a few times that this is the way that this person is, and I overlooked it. I almost had to be punched in the face for somebody to say, you know, that this person is not your friend. This person is not you. They are not in your commune. They are not. No, this is not what's going on. So I was the person that was treating somebody the way they wanted to be treated. But now I'm still treating you the way you want to be treated, because see, I ain't calling you because you don't call me. I'm not going overboard anymore to give you more flowers than you're willing to give me seeds. You know what I mean? I'm not willing to do that.
That don't mean you don't love them, but you have to love some people from a distance.
Love from a distance. I cannot deal with. And then I had to calm down the anger, which I'm still doing, Lord knows. I had to calm down the anger. I had to calm down the ill will. I had to calm down the every now and then cussing out. You know, I had to calm all of that down because of the simple fact that that was not working. Because
that was hurting you more than it was hurting them.
Well, not only that, they look at that as a win. They look at that as a win. You know, I got you upset. I won. I got you off course. I won. I got you where you're not sitting down doing what you normally do all day long because you're worried about what I'm going to say or what I have said. So I got you misdirected from what you normally would do. Even though I'm thinking, well, you know what? In my silence, I'm treating them better than I used to treat them. I'm treating them, I'm in my silence. I'm not bothering you. But every now and then they stir it, every now and then. So that for me was really an eye opener. And then what you said is so true that, our salvation is not dependent on them. It's dependent on us and what we do. So we have to be better about us. That's the story that I got from that verse. And I was like, oh wow, wait a minute, treat them the way you want to be, because they don't learn like that. They don't.
You got to remember, God got his people and Satan got his too.
Yes.
So some of them were designed to be your thorn in your side.
Right.
But I've learned over the years, silent, don't let them know what you're thinking, what you're doing, and where you're going. Because you got to love them in spite of.
Putting distance between them, putting the distance where they really, really, really have to go out of their way and now you see them coming.
Right.
If you didn't have my number before and you asking everybody for my number and they like, so-and-so called and asked for your number. Now I'm aware you coming. I know you're coming. I know you bringing something. I know that things are coming to a head or whatever. So I think the audience needs to know that treating people the way you want to be treated is also a retreat to yourself.
That's right. It is. But you got to also remember, a lot of time when people leave our lives, they don't always leave themselves. Sometimes God moves those people because God done heard a conversation we didn't hear, and God know their hearts. So God gonna leave them there long enough for you to see, and then He gonna move them. But a lot of times we have a tendency to go back and get them. And if worse off than what it was before they left. So we have to be careful about going back getting people that have been removed from our lives. They were removed for a reason, but we don't understand that. But I bet I do now, because everybody I ever went back and got it was worse off before they left.
Yeah, that's true. And then your last comment was karma is real. And I thought that was it brought a smile to Felice's face. It brought a smile to my face too when I read it. I was like, amen, amen, amen. I let karma deal with all of that stuff.
We have to be careful about what we smile about, right? Because
that's right.
Well, we don't want it to be that kind of smile.
Right, but you got to remember, we get what we put in. You put in bad, you're gonna get bad back. That's why I go back to treating people the way you want to be treated. Because if you continue to treat them good and they treat you bad, what God say, He'll make your enemy your footstool, but He also said don't step on them. And if you do what you're supposed to do, stop and think about it. If you do what you're supposed to do, everybody who have done you wrong to have had to come back, ask for forgiveness, or had to come back and ask for your help, or you see them whizzing away right up under your eyes.
Right.
Think about it.
The real karma is when we stand before the Lord in judgment, and like, okay, well, you might have skated or think you skated all this long through this earthly life,
right?
When there is an accounting, there's accounting for each of us for what we've done.
Right, right.
Well, that's where they come in when you say treat people the way you want to be treated, because that's gonna come back. What you put out is what you're gonna get back. That person may not treat you good, but 10 other people may come and treat you better.
That's right.
Exactly. You don't know what's in the line for you. You're absolutely
right. You're storing up your treasures in heaven. So
exactly. Now, Whispering in the Dark is the book that we've been talking about. Whispering in the Dark, and then there is a journal that goes along with that book. Whispering in the Dark is an eye opener. So I suggest that everybody get that book. You can get it on Amazon. You can also go to Miss Hunt's
webpage.
There we go. Go to Miss Hunt, her webpage. You could go there and go do what you have to do, but get that book. Get that book, because that book is a book that will help you in your healing and in your revival and in your coming up. Um, we want you to know that this has been an eye opener. This has been something that we've enjoyed because of the simple fact
Thank
that
you.
anytime we can get someone to give us a word of wisdom and not a
Mm,
Mhm,
word of that we have to sit back and go, okay, what did they mean by that? No,
mm,
mhm.
we know exactly what you mean. We know exactly what you're saying and how you said it. And we appreciate you being a part
Thank
of
you.
our show tonight. Felice, you want to ask that almighty last question that we
almighty
always
last. Well, again, so Dr. Hunt, Miss Terry, Miss Miss God's gift to the world, and I thank you for sharing your gift, especially with our children, and then
Thank
with our seniors. They are pretty much underserved. I believe, in my opinion, that they are underserved. So thank you for allowing your gift to be used and God's light to be shined through you. And so we ask all of our awesome guests, again, when they're putting out all their gifts to the world, they're giving, giving, giving. What do you do to fill your cup? Hopefully before it empties out, but definitely, to keep it going for you to give your gifts to the world.
Her and his sister girl love on herself. I have a day of
Good.
pampering. I have a facial, a massage. I get my nails done and my feet done. And I travel at least every 3 months. I go on a vacation.
Ooh, I love it.
Yeah.
I
Those are
love
things I enjoy. Those are things I love. As a matter of fact, I'm leaving for Hawaii in March and I'm going to St. Croix in June. Those are things that I get to benefit. I get to joy.
Uh-huh.
do.
Yes.
Hmm.
Awesome stuff. I
Well,
love it.
that's awesome. That's awesome. And we want everybody to know that the telling of the story is emptying. And like
Mhm.
Mhm.
Felice
Yeah,
said, you want to turn around and fill yourself. So
that's right.
you want to put back in after you empty. Anytime you have to empty, especially on that level, anytime
Yeah.
you have to empty, you really, really, really owe it to yourself to fulfill. Again, I cannot tell you how much this means to us, as well as I know our audience will be able to. You can see the replays on my website, www.nanetteMbuchanan.com, or you can go to our YouTube channel and listen to the replays. If you were not here live with us, please, please, please go and get the book. Go and get the book. You
Thank
need
you.
the book, Whispering
Uh-huh.
in the Dark,
Yeah.
because we all need to know that you're not alone in this. And a lot of times we
Mhm.
feel that we are alone. So again, I want to thank you and stand by, please, as we say goodnight to our guests. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
We're
Thank
glad
you
that you
so much.
joined us. Thank you
Okay.
for joining in, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.